So provided Cal McNair is more involved, whatever that means. When DeMeco Ryan sits down with the Houston Texans, what's the first thing he's asking them? And what's the first thing that Cal and company, whoever that is, I mean, I don't even know who opens it. I don't know how it goes. I don't know who's in the room. What are they asking him? Because that's very important to me as the Texans move forward as an organization and want to be considered a serious one. Like, Sean Payton talked about it. Let's get all the uncomfortable questions out of the way. I think it's a very good approach for any sort of job interview on both sides.
He comes in a power position if you're wanting to start with the Sean Payton angle or the DeMeco angle.
Well, what I'm saying is I think what Sean Payton said has merit for anybody you're interviewing for a job, and particularly this one.
Well, so you want to talk about their interview. So Sean Payton comes in and wants to know who's really making this decision, who's really making that decision. How does your front office work? How does your scouting department work? Who's reporting to who? Who's got final say on this? Where's the collaboration on that? And obviously with more specifics to each of those questions I just laid out there because he's seen all of it before. He sat in draft rooms for 20 years. He sat in meeting rooms on offense and defense for 20-plus years as the guy in charge. So he already knows how to put all those things in place in a manner that he thinks works for the way he wants to run an organization. Plus, he also learned and probably adapted over the 15 years as the Saints coach into what wasn't working, into better ways to do it. So I'm sure he feels pretty confident because it is in most situations, Belichick's situation I think would fit from Cleveland to New England and many other second-time head coaches, Lovey to Tampa. They usually don't just decide to stop. Sean Payton did. The other guys were told to stop. Get out of here. Hey, Lovey, thanks for taking us to the Super Bowl. We don't like where we're at now. You're fired. Hey, Bill, thanks for getting Cleveland to be less embarrassing, but we're not where we want to be. You're fired. And so they have to learn from it. I mean, Sean Payton spent his time coaching, learning from it. He didn't walk away so he could then be better the second time around. I mean, it'd be awesome if he was better as a second-time head coach than a first, or in his case, third, because technically he was out for 1 year in New Orleans, so he was a two-time long-term
He didn't get fired.
Saints. Well, he was told not to coach for a year.
Yeah, that's a suspension.
Well, he wasn't there. No numbers on his record from 2012, not his games. So he's able to come in and tell them he's been working in the NFL as long as Nick. He's been working in the NFL longer than Cal. So he has ideas, ones that work, successful ideas. And that's not about what should we do on 3rd and 3 from the 34 with
right.
That's about who should be in.
What's your scheme?
Well, it's more about what should this football operation look like. We
Right.
know what it looks like today is wrong. We know that. Can it work this way? Yeah, then maybe they'll fall into luck. But the way their structure is set up internally, front office, it's wrong. It should not be set up this way, and it needs to change. And if he can help convince them of that, then maybe he's trying to get that information himself. Can I do this? Are they listening to me? Do they understand that I know what needs to happen as much, if not more so than they do, and they'll allow this for me? Like, I'm not telling him to fire Nick. I'm telling him to hire this person. I'm telling to fill this position. I'm trying to tell them to put a front office that looks like this together. Then we can get to all the other stuff. Then we can get into, I want to hire a coach like this to run our defense because I want to do this, this, and this. And I already know that this person wants to come along because he can do, like his staff is probably basically all put together. And while DeMeco might have some ideas and Kafka might have some ideas and the guys in Philadelphia probably have similar ideas on what they'd like to do. Does Jonathan Gannon know that Mike Zimmer wants to work for him as his DC already? Maybe. Does he know that Brian Johnson wants to come with him to be the new OC here after being the QB coach in Philly? Maybe. But if Shane Steichen leaves, maybe he just says, well, why can't I just now be promoted here in Philly where I already know I'm going to become a huge head coaching candidate because I get to keep doing what I've been doing. And so all those things are at play. Now put it into DeMeco's hands. He's probably going to want to know some of those things. He's only seen 3 NFL organizations. Mm-hmm. One that was probably put together reasonably well. The Texans weren't as dysfunctional from a front office standpoint during his playing time. Then he was with an organization I think is pretty well respected in Philly for how they're put together. Success or failure of the football team is different. And then now in San Francisco, similarly, I would imagine people respect the way that team has operated since he's been there in 2017 as a QC. So that's what he sees. He's seen those organizations, and he should be able to go in there and say, hey, you remember what it was like back then? That's what we need to go back to. If we want to be serious about winning, and if I'm even going to contemplate accepting this job, then I want this, and this in place. And I want to know that my voice carries weight, and it deserves to. And I want a collaborative effort with my scouting department, and I need a say in this. And maybe he should feel confident saying that to them. Maybe he wouldn't feel as confident saying to this team or that team. But as you were saying, a relationship in this building, and he's not sitting next to a nice to meet you for the first time, Mr. Tepper in Carolina. He's definitely not saying that to Cal or Janice or Hannah. That is different. So he comes in from a little bit different perspective in that he has knowledge of this organization at one time.
Do you think
he probably has a lot less knowledge of what it's like now?
Yeah.
In a good way? Because I can imagine he's talked to Andre Johnson.
Yeah.
And anyone else we might have suggested. And they'll probably shoot him straight more so than, man, I'd love to have him here.
And more so than, I just saw what you posted on Instagram and that picture with Deshaun Watson. He probably told him a little bit more detail than just, figuring out on his own what he thinks.
Yeah, the Deshaun Watson stuff is still like that Andre Johnson pro Deshaun Watson anti-Texan stuff is a football thing. And because it's Deshaun Watson, I can't just totally dismiss it because there's more to Deshaun Watson than just a football thing.
And Andre looks a little bad in hindsight considering the horse he was backing, but I don't think the reasons he was backing him were bad.
Yeah, they're separate things. Mm-hmm. But you got to take it all together if that's what you're looking at. I mean,
yeah, because I don't think Andre does that if he's aware of what's going on in Deshaun's personal life.
Yeah, if you know that this organization is not one you want to work for, then you're going to know that. And if Andre Johnson, he's in an interesting spot because he can help this team tremendously if there's somebody they want, and he can help recruit them.
It's no shock that they repaired that relationship ASAP. I mean, by appearances, at the very minimum, it is repaired. He's not sitting in the suite with them on television if it's not.
No, it's repaired.
And it was mutually
beneficial. But it also
beneficial.
wasn't as fractured, I don't think, as people thought it was.
Well, I don't know, man. That is a pretty stinging thing to do, to post that on social media. I mean,
did it seem like the Texans were offended?
Well, I don't know. We don't really.
Well, that's kind of my point. I think they kind of I don't think they were happy, but I don't think it was not a burn bridging type of commentary. Apparently,
the guy that was most directly, pointed at in that post is gone, and that's the most.
So, in other
thing.
words, what he posted, what he said, is now
it's not irrelevant.
It's not. It's agreed to. Everybody agrees with him.
Yeah,
the fans, the players, the team, and ownership all agree. We're better off if that part of our team is not here anymore.
Yeah.
So that's one way you can repair a relationship. Oh, yeah, you were right.
Sometimes.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, but the fact that he was pushed to that is still fascinating to me. And there's another aspect of DeMeco Ryans being a Texans head coaching candidate that is also fascinating to me. We'll get to that when we come back here on the A-Team Sports Talk 790.
From the Top Tax Defenders Weather Center,